Hello, and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of This Week in Soccer. I'm John Butensky alongside Dave Hughes and Doug Cannon. This week, we'll be discussing the latest rumors in the English Premier League and the start of the MLS season. So guys, the biggest rumor floating around in the MLS is focused on the Colorado Rapids. They've already made a lot of big moves such as Kevin Doyle, but they're also looking to make another move very soon. What are the Rapids' other options right now?
Well, John, like you just said, Kevin Doyle, very good player, very good striker, has played in Europe. He plays for the Republic of Ireland. He's played with the best. Their other options are Carlos Puyol, an ex-Barcelona and ex-Spanish international defender, who will bring a lot of depth and experience to the team. Doug, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's going to bring a lot of experience to the Colorado Rapids. He's captained Barcelona and the Spain side to multiple Champions League victories and, of course, the 2010 World Cup. So it's only a good move for them.
Now, guys, with these big MLS players coming over from Europe, what does this mean for the league with all these big name players coming over to Europe now?
When European soccer thinks of MLS soccer, they think of a different kind of sport, different kind of style of play, the speed, the physicality. It's a lot different. So when they see ex-prolific players, like you just said, like Carlos Puyol, David Villa, coming over from European leagues, they think it's a step down. In my opinion, it's not a step down. It's just a different type of play. Let's talk about David Villa. He's 28 years old. He just played in the World Cup last year, and he just played for Atletico Madrid in the Champions League final. Yes, he has a broken leg, but he's proven that he can still score goals for the international team in Spain, and he's proven to play with the best in Europe.
Yeah, what about you, Doug?
Yeah, what we've seen with the MLS is that these older players, your Thierry Henrys, your Rafael Marquez's, they come over just looking for a payday, really. But Thierry Henry has given multiple interviews saying that the MLS is on the rise. And yes, he's getting paid top dollar because he's a designated player. But other players like Liam Ridgewell on the Portland Timbers, who's not necessarily the cream of the crop when he played in England, but he's a designated player for them. And he's around 30 years old, so he's not considered too old to play. And he's a star for them. And the players, the fans, they love him. So players are coming over and they're realizing that they can get a lot of stardom, a lot of money by playing in this lesser league. And when more players do that, it's going to just make the league better because you're going to have more competitive players, better teams, and it's just going to be more entertaining to watch.
And you can also include names like Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard, also just other big names coming over to the league. It's you don't want to say it's a retirement league, but it's definitely gaining popularity, I think, and expanding and becoming a more well-known league. Now, staying over in Europe, we have Manuel Pellegrini of Manchester City. His season might be possibly coming to an end. What do you guys think?
Well, he's had some success with Man City. They, of course, have won the Carling Cup and the English Premier League last season. But this season, it's been kind of different. The major push for Manchester City in these past few years, ever since they won their first title in 2011, was to push on into Europe in the Champions League. And they just haven't been able to do that. Sure, they've had unlucky draws against Barcelona for 2 years in a row, but still, you would think that there'd be some progress on that front. And this season, their title defense has been abysmal. Recently, they've lost at Crystal Palace 2-1, and Crystal Palace, they're a good team, but they're not the kind of team that would beat the top four. You know, your Manchester Cities, your Manchester Uniteds, your Arsenals. So I think that Pellegrini will be out at the end of the season. And I certainly think it will be 100% certain if he doesn't finish in the top four.
Yeah. How about you, Dave?
Doug said before the show, going off what he said, they're not afraid to fire big-name managers. They fired Roberto Mancini when he wasn't doing so well in our terms. They're in fourth place right now, 6 or 7 above Liverpool. And I see Liverpool going ahead of them towards the end of the season. But if they finish below fourth or they finish in third, like Doug was saying, he's going to be on his way out.
Yeah, I mean, they're in fourth place right now, and that doesn't seem so bad, but it just seemed like such a short while ago they were in second place. And, for a team that has such high expectations, that's just not really acceptable, right? Now, staying with Manchester City, where do they go next with a possible manager? How about you, Doug?
Well, I think Carlo Ancelotti is a name they're going to be looking at. The thing with Real Madrid fans is that they're incredibly fickle. One day, they'll love Ronaldo, they'll love Bale, they'll love everybody on the team, and then, if they have an off day where they lose a game, which is very rare, they're going to turn on them. And we've seen that with Gareth Bale, who hasn't scored in a few games who is a remarkable player, and I think it's pretty disgraceful that the fans are giving him a lot of stick. They even attacked his car, and if they don't win the Champions League or the league this year, then I think Ancelotti will also get sacked, and that'll make him available for Manchester City.
Teams like Real Madrid and Man City expect wins. If they're not winning and they're not in a run of form, they're going to put the blame on somebody, and usually that falls to the manager, not the players. So if Ancelotti, like Doug said, can't win the Champions League, can't win the league, which they should, I see it happening, then he'll be out too. And if Pellegrini can't do his part, then he'll be out. Maybe a manager swap. Stranger things have happened.
Now shifting over to players, how about Sami Khedira? Where is he possibly going to play next?
Khedira has been linked to a move away from Real Madrid for a long time. There's a couple teams, Arsenal, Schalke, Bayern Munich. Personally, I see him going to Schalke. He could partner Kevin Prince Boateng in the defensive midfield. I know they gave Real Madrid a run for their money in the Champions League a couple weeks ago. So I think if they solidify that defensive midfield, because they have a couple of youngsters playing in it now, with a veteran, with someone who knows, has experience, they'll be all set.
Yeah. How about you, Doug?
Well, I think this is kind of a unique situation. Sami Khedira is infinitely experienced. He's won the World Cup recently. He's won the Champions League with Real Madrid. And he's available for free since his contract runs out in the summer. And any number of teams could get him. And the team that I would like to see him go to most would be Arsenal, because they have been crying out for a world-class defensive midfielder for years now. And if he goes there, there's already a contingent of German players with Per Mertesacker and Mesut Ozil. So he'll fit right in, and I think that would just be a great steal for Arsene Wenger.
Now, you spoke of Arsenal. How about Edison Cavani, the winger for PSG? What do you guys think of a possible move to Arsenal?
I think it's unlikely because Arsenal don't really spend a lot of money on players. They only broke that precedent a few years ago with Mesut Ozil for $40 million. And Edison Cavani is more of a striker. And right now, Arsenal have Olivier Giroud, who's having a good season, but they do also need like a world beater. And Edison Cavani can be just that. But again, he's going to cost upwards of $50 million. I just don't see Arsenal spending that much money on him.
I'd have to agree with Doug. I would like to see him in an Arsenal jersey if he would go anywhere. Definitely not Chelsea. But like Doug said, once again, they don't spend a lot of money on players. Personally, he should have never left Napoli. I was very disappointed that he left. You know, when players get a lot of goals under their belt, a couple seasons, they rack up the goals. They're looking for that next payday. They're looking for that next move, that next sensation. So he should have never left Napoli. I think PSG was a wrong move. I think his career has definitely been harmed by that. Another possibility would be the swap for Robin van Persie. Robin van Persie has been getting a little older, as Doug might add, or Doug might agree with. So they could go with a little bit younger Edison Cavani. They are around the same height, so it would kind of be the same style of play, but, you know, we'll see what happens.
Now, moving to teams, how about AC Milan? They're for sale, and what do you guys think about that?
Well, AC Milan's my favorite team. Sorry for the biasness here, but they are looking to sell 75% of the club to a Chinese partnership. Those are the only details I know. Silvio Berlusconi has been linked with corruption over the years. We know the Italian football world and Antonio Conte himself have been linked with a lot of corruption. I think this is good for the club. They've obviously been at a standstill since last season, and with the firing of Allegri. They have good players. They just need to find a new coach and ownership.
So you obviously believe this is a good move and for them to get into the right direction.
Yes, but they're not done yet. Like I just said, they need a new coach. They need to stop hiring ex-players like Inzaghi or Seedorf. They need to get a world-class experienced coach who has been coaching for a long time.
Yeah. How about you, Doug?
Well, AC Milan is most certainly not my favorite team, so I'm not biased at all. I do think they need a change in management, a change in ownership, and I think this is going to be good because Berlusconi has shown in the past that he doesn't really know what he's doing in the transfer market, letting go of stars such as Thiago Silva and Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the same window without getting proper replacements. So if they get these Chinese investors who want to see AC Milan succeed again, then they're going to spend a lot of money. And if they want to get a new manager, I could actually see them getting Carlo Ancelotti, who previously managed them before. And I think that would just be too perfect since Ancelotti knows the Italian league. He's Italian, of course, and he's managed them before, like I said.
Okay. That concludes our first segment. When we return, we will be discussing the conclusion of the English Premier League season. Welcome back. Next, we'll be discussing the finale of the English Premier League season. To start, Doug, who do you have in the top 4 to finish the season?
My top 4 for the end of the season is Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Liverpool. I say that because Chelsea have been just high-flying all season. They finally have a team that is very cohesive. Diego Costa up front, Oscar, Nemanja Matic, and Fabregas. They're all coming together. And Arsenal in second place for me. It's going to be the first time they'll finish in second, I hope, in a very long time. Their team is, I think they're top of the form table right now. Alexis Sanchez has 17 goals. Olivier Giroud has got 12. And then everybody's just working together and really trying to finish strong. Manchester United in third is because Manchester City have been falling off lately. And recently, they're on top form too, winning the past 5 games. And they play Manchester City next. And I think that's going to be an easy win for them. And then finally, in fourth place, I think Liverpool will finish in fourth because Manchester City have been having a rough time lately. And Liverpool are really vying for that consecutive Champions League 2 seasons.
Yep. How about you, Dave?
This is going to be very bad for our viewers, but I have this exact same thing Doug just said. So it looks like Doug was taking a look at my sheet before the show. But the only thing I have to add is that Liverpool haven't lost, I believe, since November. If that's still up for grabs.
They lost last time to Arsenal 4-1.
They just lost to Arsenal 4-1. They were undefeated since November. So Brendan Rodgers.
They also lost to Manchester United.
Okay, well, they were on a good undefeated run. So Brendan Rodgers really kicked it into high gear. They got a lot of people contributing. And then the rumor mill, James Milner might be headed to Liverpool from Man City in the summer, which is good for him. And that's it for me.
And guys, we're sticking with teams. Who was your biggest surprise this season as of right now?
My biggest surprise this season was Arsenal. You know, a lot of people coming in, they didn't think Arsenal was going to finish in the top 4. They had a shaky start to last season's opener. They lost, and they also lost this season's home opener. So, yeah, they were my biggest surprise this season.
My biggest surprise this season is Southampton. They had a fire sale last summer, selling players like Luke Shaw, Adam Lallana, and Dejan Lovren. And they have just exceeded all expectations. Everybody thought they were going to be bottom of the table, but so far I believe they're in 6th or 7th, and for a good while they look like they were going to finish the Champions League spot.
Yeah, and now sticking with teams, how was the biggest disappointment this season?
Well, my biggest disappointment has to be Liverpool because last season they finished in 2nd place, which is the first time in about 4 years they finished in a Champions League spot. Now, of course, they started the season, they got players like Mario Balotelli and Adam Lallana, like I said, and at the start, it was pretty bad for them. And they crashed out of the Champions League at home. So, didn't look so hot. I mean, recently they're picking it up, but they've just been a disappointment for me. I thought they were going to push on and finish in the top 4 for sure this year.
Good thing Doug didn't take my point again, but I was going to say Everton. They did get into the Europa League spot last season, and this season they're in 12th place. So Roberto Martinez, don't know what he's doing. Got to figure out what he's doing.
He's got to figure out what he's doing.
That's actually segue into my disappointment, biggest disappointment of the season, which is Romelu Lukaku in terms of players. So he had a lot of goals coming from Dortmund, scored a lot of goals last season, and he's only really scored in the Europa League this season.
Okay, how about you, Doug, with disappointing players?
Disappointing player for me would be Angel Di Maria, the record British transfer signing. He's the new number 7 for Manchester United, came over from Real Madrid for $99 million. That's a lot of cabbage.
That's a lot.
It's 99.
90, not 100, 99. But anyway, he started the season really hot, scoring 4 goals in 4 games, and then he got injured, and somebody broke into his house. So that's scary.
That's never good.
It's never good. So recently he's kind of not been doing well. But something interesting, even though he's not playing to our expectations, he's second in the league with 12 assists. Only second to Cesc Fabregas. So that just shows that when he's on, baby.
Yeah. Now, Doug, I'm going back to you. How about the most surprising player now?
Most surprising player for me is QPR's Charlie Austin. This guy was banging in the goals in the championship last season. And this season in the Premier League, he's got 17 goals.
17.
17.
QPR are not good. And this guy has 17 goals. That is incredible.
Very good. How about you?
I'm going to take Bohan. He plays for Stoke City. Well-traveled citizen. He's played for Ajax, Barcelona, Milan. Never really hit his stride. But now for Stoke City, he has, scoring a lot of goals, a lot of assists. But he is injured. He's out for the season. So.
How about Harry Kane for Tottenham? He's on the British national team, and he's playing so well right now. You guys don't think he's a surprising player?
He's playing okay.
He's playing all right?
30-plus goals in all competitions is okay.
I mean, I think Tottenham sucks, so.
Okay. When we return, we'll be looking at the Major League Soccer season so far and our predictions for the end of the season, the playoffs, and wrapping up our show with our Speak Up segments. Welcome back for our final segment of the day. So guys, the MLS season is 5 games underway. Dave, what are your thoughts on the biggest surprises of the season so far?
Biggest surprises are the Vancouver Whitecaps, who are in the lead of the Western Conference right now, and FC Dallas, who was in the lead of the Western Conference last weekend, but they were beaten by the Portland Timbers. FC Dallas was undefeated in 3 games, and the Portland Timbers were kind of rocky start, couple draws, couple losses. Those are my biggest surprise so far.
How about you, Doug?
Well, the biggest surprise for me would be a player, and that's Sebastian Giovinco. This is a guy who's really lighting the way for the MLS recently. He came over from Juventus. He's 28. He's in his prime, and he's a very good player. So I thought it was really surprising when he came over. And in his first game, Giovinco and Altidore, they connected, and Toronto, they won or tied?
They won.
They won their first game, and I think that this is going to be the year of Toronto. Canada.
Yeah. Now, let's think about the predictions for the end of the season. I know it's a far while away, but what do you guys think? Who do you think will make the playoffs?
I definitely see New York City FC making the playoffs. Orlando with Kaká, possibly. They're on a shaky start so far. They won their first game, but they also lost 2 heartbreakers in the dying minutes against DC United and the Montreal Impact. Other than that, I think DC United will make the playoffs again. On the other side, FC Dallas, possibly. Oscar Pereja and the boys, they just got to get it back together after losing the Timbers.
How about you, Doug?
Well, I think it's going to be Orlando with Kaká, like Dave said. Kaká has been pretty surprising for me. I thought he wasn't going to be, that good. But he's the talisman for Orlando. Then I think it's going to be D.C. and Toronto. Then on the other side, Seattle, Timbers, and Dallas.
Okay. Now, how about the international friendlies in the summer? They took a break for the World Cup. Now, how about the Golden Cup this summer?
In my opinion, they need to take another break because as it stands right now, if they don't take a break, since we're talking about Toronto FC will be missing Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore for 10 games from March to August or November, which the MLS season runs till, because of international friendlies and because of the Gold Cup. So in my eyes, that's 10 wins that they could be potentially getting. If they don't have Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore, it's going to be hard to get points.
Yeah, obviously 2 big pieces for the U.S. national team. How about you, Doug?
Well, yeah, I think there should be a break. I think the MLS calendar should be on the FIFA calendar, but Don Garber, the MLS commissioner, has said that the MLS wants to be different from the rest of the world, and I think that's a little silly. Like Dave said, Toronto could potentially miss out on 10 wins with Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore leaving, but that's assuming that Jurgen Klinsmann, the U.S. national coach, calls them up, because usually the Gold Cup is for kind of the B team, since you're playing teams that aren't necessarily, top of their game.
Yeah.
The Gold Cup is also, sorry to interrupt, the Gold Cup is also CONCACAF based. It's USA, Canada, and the Caribbean teams. So a lot of players from the Caribbean play in the MLS. That's like their Europe. So a lot of teams, not only Toronto FC, but a lot of teams will be missing key players, key Caribbean players.
Yeah, in a way you could say it's almost unfair, but I guess that's the price you pay when you have these big names coming over to your teams. And this wraps up our segment on the MLS. Now we go into our Speak Up segment, starting with Doug.
Manchester United have been flying high as of late. Winning their last 5 consecutive matches, they look like the team to beat in these final 7 games of the EPL season. But their recent run of form does not reflect that they have played all season. Under last season's manager David Moyes, the Red Devils finished 7th place and missed out on qualifying for European football for the first time since 1995. Moyes was let go, and Dutch manager Louis van Gaal took over for the 2014-15 season. Fresh off a third-place finish in the World Cup with Holland, things look promising for United fans. Marquee signings such as Radamel Falcao and Angel Di Maria set the tone for what looked like a season of exciting football, something that has been missing ever since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. But by the time the New Year's came around, United were playing some of the worst football this reporter has ever seen. Even though the results were being churned out, you felt as though the very identity of the club had been sucked out. And when United went crashing out of the FA Cup at home to Arsenal, the fans were tired of this patient possession approach Van Gaal had brought to Old Trafford. Then, everything clicked. A 3-0 win versus Tottenham on March 15th signaled something truly special. Van Gaal had found his United way. The wins continued to come, and against Liverpool at Anfield, Juan Mata, who had been in and out of the team until this time, produced a masterclass of goal-scoring ability and killer passes that symbolized United's new way of play. They now sit third with the Champions League so close to their grasp. United faced cross-town rivals Manchester City on Sunday, and for the first time in 2 years, United fans like me feel it's finally time to show what color Manchester truly is.
What is life without drama? The English Premier League as a whole is one of the most entertaining leagues to watch. Add in the fact that 3 teams get relegated at the end of each season, it makes for a great TV dinner. This year's MTV reality-esque showing features the R's from North London, Danny Ings and the rest of Burnley, along with Cambiasso and Leicester City. Now, these aren't the only teams in danger of being relegated. The list continues with Sunderland, Aston Villa, and Hull City, all earning between 28 and 29 points. The magic number in order not to be relegated is 40. At this point, none of these teams look to be meeting that point by the end of the season. Sunderland have just hired a new manager looking to turn their recent losses into something of a hot streak. Similarly, Aston Villa have also hired a new manager, Tim Sherwood. Yesterday, they scored a hefty 3 on QPR, but managed a tie after going ahead in the 33rd. In Hull City's case, they need to get the ball to Dame Ndoye, who has 4 goals since moving from Lokomotiv Moscow. QPR are done if they can't start defending like a professional team. So many points have been lost due to the inability to defend for a full 90 minutes. For Burnley, they need to give the ball to Danny Ings, whether that is from build-up in the midfield or down either wing from a Trippier cross. For Leicester City, they're already going down, and it's been a while. They may not look as complete or as unified as the others sitting in top 4, but each one of them offers something to the league. It's up to them to stay out of the relegation zone. All the fans can do is pray. A lot. Glory, glory, QPR, Burnley, and Leicester City.
In an expansion effort to popularize soccer in America and Canada, the MLS added 2 more clubs this offseason to the league in New York City and in Orlando. With the additions of NYCFC and OCSC, the MLS League now has a total of 20 teams. Following their additions into the MLS, NYFC was purchased by the New York Yankees and will now call the Bronx home at Yankee Stadium. NYCFC is scheduled to play 17 games in Yankee Stadium this season. When the news broke, many players on the Yankees were not happy because they believed that the field damage would be inevitable. One upset Yankee was first baseman Mark Teixeira, as he is quoted saying, "It definitely causes an issue, but it's nothing we can control, so we can't worry about it." Meanwhile, Yankees left fielder Brett Gardner had something different to say, claiming they had a couple of games there in the past, and that doesn't mess it up nearly as much as a concert or a boxing match, Gardner said, because the guys are just playing on the field and there's not 40,000 people trampling on the field. Of course, NYCFC will play at Yankee Stadium while the Yankees are on the road, but the baseball team is sure to notice at least a small difference in field conditions when they return. With NYCFC's season still very early, the team is sitting in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. There are high hopes that the team can still and will continue to succeed in the MLS. But big names like David Villa, Frank Lampard, and Mix Diskerud, there's plenty to be excited about this season. I wish both teams luck as they both continue to play through the remainder of their seasons. That's all we have time for today. We thank you for joining us for our first This Week in Soccer broadcast. That's Doug Cannon, he's Dave Hughes, and I'm John Butensky, and we're off.